Hello, and welcome to this presentation of the evaluation findings for the Excelling Against the Odds project in Ethiopia implemented by Childhope UK and Chadet. My name is Tariq Omershaw, and I'm here on behalf of the evaluation team, One South LLC, to share a summary of the evaluation findings.
We will begin with a brief project overview. We will then move to discuss the evaluation findings for key DAC criteria, including relevance, impact, sustainability, and effectiveness. Finally, we will discuss recommendations based on evaluation findings to external stakeholders.
The project supported 16,481 marginalized girls in South Gondar, South Wollo, and Arsi across 74 schools and communities. Project activities took place at both the school and the community level, and we'll speak about those in a moment. The project ran from April 2017 to March 2021. The project was preceded by a first phase, which was funded through the Girls Education Challenge Fund 1. This current phase of the project was funded through the Girls Education Challenge transition window with an investment of £4.7 million.
The project conducted several activities at the school and community level. At the school level, the project supported homework tutorial clubs. Homework tutorials are organized by schools in Ethiopia as part of wider government policy. The project trained teachers who facilitate homework tutorials in specific teaching practices and pedagogical improvements. This approach was chosen by the project to strengthen existing school structures, and homework support tutorials were held on a weekly basis in project schools since GEC 1. The project also trained teachers in gender-sensitive teaching, improved pedagogy, child safeguarding, improved literacy and numeracy instruction, and inclusive teaching strategies. The project also provided bursaries and material support to girls, including school uniforms and school materials. The project organized girls' clubs which delivered a life skills curriculum and conducted parent and caregiver outreach activities at the community level to support parental attitudes and engagement in school and attitudes towards girls' education. Finally, the project made several adaptations to implementation in response to the COVID-19 pandemic. These are discussed in further detail in the report. Impact. What impact did the project have on key outcomes? The project successfully delivered improvements in key outcomes. The evaluation provides significant evidence the project had an impact on learning outcomes, namely on national examination results between 2017 and 2019, an impact on English literacy, and an impact on numeracy. The evaluation gathered national exam data for the last 3 exam cycles, for a total of 1,500 girls in non-project areas and 1,500 girls in project areas. Based on a cross-sectional impact model, the evaluation was able to isolate the project's impact on grade 8 national exam results. When we looked at this further, we found that the impact was largely driven by improvements made in the English literacy section of the grade 8 national exam. In addition, a review of internal assessment data, that is grade data, semester grade data at the school level, following a similar quasi-experimental cross-sectional design, the evaluation was able to isolate project impact on grades, further supporting this finding. Finally, at midline, the evaluation was able to isolate project impact on numeracy outcomes based on a single written task which measured several advanced numeracy competencies completed by girls at both baseline and midline in non-project and project areas. Again, the cross-sectional model was able to determine and isolate the project's impact on numeracy outcomes. Collectively, this suggests that the project had a significant impact on learning outcomes. Secondly, there is significant evidence from the evaluation that the project supported improvements in both teachers' mindsets and practices, in particular in lesson preparation, in assessment practices in the classroom, and in improvements made in pedagogy. These are discussed in further detail in the report. Finally, there is significant evidence that the project supported improvements in parental attitudes towards girls' education, and indeed significant changes were seen between midline and endline in the percentage of parents with positive attitudes towards girls' education. Based on data available, however, there is little evidence that the project had an impact on local language literacy levels, that is Afan Oromo or Amharic, depending on the region, or on girls' transition rates. Findings suggest, in the case of transition, that transition rates are high in both project and non-project areas. However, it should also be noted that the evaluation's measurement of transition at endline and between midline and endline is somewhat confounded by the automatic transition policy which was applied in Ethiopia, whereby after schools reopened, all children automatically transitioned to the next grade level. This prevented the evaluation from meaningfully measuring changes in transition between midline and endline. However, on the whole, there is little evidence that the project had impact on either local language literacy or transition outcomes, suggesting that the project should re-evaluate the assumptions about what influences these outcomes and the existing levels of these outcomes. Effectiveness. What worked to deliver key outcomes? Evaluation findings indicate that impact on learning outcomes was driven particularly by the success of homework support tutorials delivered by tutors trained by the project and through improvements made in teaching practices, including in lesson preparation, assessment, and pedagogy. Evidence from the evaluation on what works indicates that supporting girls to feel comfortable participating in class, that is, supporting girls to feel comfortable asking and answering questions in class, supports English literacy and numeracy outcomes. The quantitative analyses here are discussed in further detail in the evaluation report. Secondly, homework tutorials and improvements in teachers' preparation, assessment, and pedagogy are effective mechanisms to improve numeracy and English literacy outcomes. Thirdly, the evaluation put forward significant evidence that home environment factors, including both parental engagement in school and positive attitudes towards girls' education, have a positive influence and support learning outcomes. In addition, the evaluation found that bursaries, school uniforms, and girls' clubs support transition outcomes, that is, the likelihood of a girl having successfully transitioned. Self-esteem supports girls' literacy and numeracy outcomes, and several project activities were found to support girls' self-esteem, including girls' clubs, reading corners, receiving a school uniform. The evaluation also found that participating in a girls' club and receiving a school uniform were in fact the most effective interventions at supporting a girl's school belonging. School belonging is a key ingredient, according to self-determination theory, in engaging in goal-directed behavior. So that's a key consideration in terms of an effective line of interventions to support school belonging. And finally, that academic self-efficacy supports English literacy outcomes, and that project activities, in particular participating in homework tutorials, reading corners, both support girls' academic self-efficacy. Relevance. How relevant was the project to the needs and conditions of target groups? The project addressed relevant barriers to girls' education in target areas and was able to make timely, relevant, and effective adaptations in the face of changing conditions due to the COVID-19 pandemic. These adaptations were both able to support girls to continue learning, and also project messaging on COVID-19 resulted in increased knowledge amongst girls of prevention and mitigation strategies to prevent the spread of COVID-19, including relating to the use of social distancing, mask wearing, and hand washing. These findings and additional details on the project adaptations and messaging in response to COVID-19 are discussed in further detail in the relevance chapter of the report. Sustainability. How likely is it that outcome achievements will be sustained and improvements continue after the end of the project? The participatory session on sustainability with project stakeholders, which included district and regional officials held in each of the three regions, indicated that the strongest support for the sustainability of project achievements across outcomes is present at the school level. Schools in general have existing mechanisms or are putting in place mechanisms to sustain project outcome achievements. These include means to continue homework support tutorials in a similar way to as supported during the project, to continue and support communities of practices, to provide teachers with fora, to discuss instructional improvements, and various other activities. Stakeholders who participated in the participatory sessions on sustainability rated sustainability at the system level across outcomes as emerging, and particularly flagged that additional support is necessary to increase awareness of the importance of life skills to system level stakeholders. At the community level, for some outcomes including attendance and transition, participants in the participatory session rated sustainability as emerging. However, there is little evidence of supports in place at the community level to sustain learning outcome achievements, according to participants in the participatory workshop. For example, they were unable to identify specific resources available to girls in communities or community-based learning activities in which girls could continue to participate, which may support or sustain outcome achievements in learning. Additionally, stakeholders argued that there is little demand from parents and caregivers, despite greater awareness, for initiatives that would support girls' learning or demand for continued improvements in teaching quality at schools. I will now summarize the main recommendations made to external stakeholders. Additional recommendations were made to internal stakeholders as part of the evaluation, and these are summarized in the evaluation report. The first recommendation for external stakeholders made by the evaluation team is to advocate for activities and initiatives which the evaluation has demonstrated are effective in delivering key outcomes. Several of these have been discussed in this presentation and are elaborated in more detail in the main body of the report. The second recommendation from the evaluation team is to promote the importance of self-esteem, academic self-efficacy, and belonging in supporting marginalized girls' learning outcomes and wider psychosocial well-being, particularly with system-level stakeholders. Several linkages were found between these outcomes and other key quality education outcomes, and furthermore, school stakeholders who participated in the participatory sessions on sustainability acknowledge the importance of these outcomes, but report that this remains unacknowledged at the system level, preventing subsequent investments in initiatives which directly and explicitly target these key life skill outcomes, which are shown to be effective in supporting quality education gains for marginalized girls. The next recommendation from the evaluation team is to continue to support the delivery of improved instruction through homework tutorials, which are an existing intervention activity organized by all schools in Ethiopia. Several stakeholders who participated in the validation workshop indicated that this will support the sustainability of project achievement in schools, and this would likely do the same for other initiatives or projects delivered through this mechanism. Thank you for your attention. The evaluation report provides additional details on the methodology for the evaluation as well as the research design. Should you have any questions following on from this presentation, please feel free to email us at management@one-south.org.